Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We are joined again by Mike Bradford, our business coach at Business Coach Toronto. He joins us here live again today on the podcast and Zoomcast to talk more about his partnering with entrepreneurs and small businesses to really help them achieve their goals and help them overcome many obstacles which they face. So first and foremost, welcome back. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Jill, thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to actually see you on video here this morning.
Yay!
So thank you for having me.
Same here. And it's businesscoachtoronto.ca, correct? That's the best form of contact?
Yes, that's correct.
Great. Did you want to share a phone number or social media page as well?
Well, 416-523-6555. And my LinkedIn profile, it's a little bit stuffy. I call myself Michael Bradford instead of Mike Bradford. So that's how you get the best place to reach or connect with me.
Great. Well, first and foremost, tell us a little bit about Business Coach Toronto and what it provides.
Okay. Well, I founded Business Coach Toronto about 14 years ago after working with a couple of other coaching and consulting firms. My first one was Mark Kamen and Associates out of Houston, Texas, and my second one was Coaching for Action out of Toronto. And I, building on the shoulders of those great mentors of mine, I gathered the courage to launch my own brand called Business Coach Toronto. And what I provide are coaching and consulting services tailored or customized specifically to my clients' needs. So I do not have off-the-shelf programs like many of the other coaches. So I'm looking at and listening for what are the kinds of concerns and issues that you have as a client, and what tools and frameworks and coaching distinctions. So I'll distinguish the consulting piece of what my clients will need from the coaching piece of what my clients will need. And because they're two distinct bodies of work. And based on my history and my background experience, I have found my passion and my calling. And the work that I do is really fulfilling.
Beautiful. Well, I want to hear, there's so much for it, so much to it, I should say, and there's a lot of services you provide, and I want to dive deeper into that, but I really think it's important, Mike, to first off find out a little bit about your background, if you don't mind sharing. Walk us through you and your life, and I want to know, how you got here to this level.
Okay, great. Thank you for asking that. Jill, I generally introduce myself as a recovering banker. And what I poke fun at, like many small business folks do at the banking world, but there are many great things about that world in the corporate world that I find are useful for my clients, like how to get credit, how to build a business plan, that will get you, through the front door. On the coaching side, let me backtrack. So I take those things that I learned as a consultant working for Bank of Montreal into the suite of different things and frameworks that I bring to my clients. So I was doing my MBA, sitting in a university classroom in Dalhousie University one day where I turned around and I said, well, I've had, the bank has kind of fulfilled its need for me personally. And I made a decision there to leave the corporate world, a nice, comfortable position, and take the step into running my own business, and that's when I started that. Again, on a personal note, I'm married, 46 years, 2 grown children, 6 grandchildren, and they're all coming here for
Wow.
Thanksgiving.
Oh,
And I guess here I can brag for a moment, just a quick moment. I just did my first triathlon with my grandson
oh my gosh.
last month. So what I do to stay young is I do triathlons, sprint distance and Olympic distance triathlons. But the cool thing is I had my son and my grandson doing the first one together. So it seems that I've inspired them to step up to
Oh,
do unreasonable things like that as well.
that is amazing. Congratulations. And by the way, you mentioned Thanksgiving. Do you have Thanksgiving in Canada?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just
should
got
frame that.
confused. I said,
It's
oh my
October.
goodness. Okay.
It's in October. It's not the same date as
Oh, okay.
the United States celebrate Thanksgiving.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I was going to say, I'm like, wow, they're coming early, but good to know. Well, there's so much to you and all the work that you're doing. And if you are just tuning in, don't forget businesscoachtoronto.ca. We're joined here by Mike, who, emphasizes that coaching that promises measurable results. So, someone out there who is interested obviously can reach out on the website and let's break it down, because you say coaching for business and what makes it indispensable. Let's talk about, the benefits of it and even get into maybe how it works.
Absolutely. So I talked a bit about the consulting
Yes.
piece. So, I had the experience of being a consultant for the bank. And I worked in Chicago and I worked in New York for a Canadian bank. Bank of Montreal had purchased Harris Bancorp in Chicago. And so that was an
Okay.
incredible experience for us in there. And I have a story to tell if we have time later on about that. But the coaching piece is another key element of this. Very often, you might, as a business owner, you know the steps. You've read the books. You know that I got to do step 1, 2, 3, and 4, and so that's what the consulting will do: help build a business model, a strategy, some processes, and things like that. But the coaching side is
Yep.
Around mindset, skills, training. I might know how to lose weight, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I'll be successful because there's some constraint in that wonderful space between our ears that inhibits us from reaching our goals. And that's where the coaching comes in.
Got it.
It could be a fear of having difficult conversations with your employees, or it could be a fear of some stuff that you might have around dealing with the bank or financing or raising money. Or it might be something around, am I good enough for this?
Yeah.
And so, or how do I have difficult conversations? So that's why the coaching piece and the consulting piece are distinct. And whatever it is that my clients might need are the kind of things that I'll bring to the table to deal with whatever's in the way for you reaching your goals. So that's how I distinguish the difference between coaching and consulting.
Got it.
I'll give you an example of one of my clients. This client started his first franchise, and he'd already been in the business for a while, working for somebody else, but he mustered up all the money and the strength, and he had his wife sign off on a second mortgage for his house, and he was all in on this franchise, having had the experience. But it was funny, the first thing that was a constraint for him was negotiating price. So people would be negotiating with him, and he felt that he folded. He didn't understand what his value proposition is.
Yeah.
He didn't have clarity in his mind around that, and he would be pushed, bullied, or manipulated by people who were playing hardball with him. And once he understood his value proposition, once he noticed that he didn't have to be desperate for every sale, that he had the freedom to select his clients, and there may be certain clients that are not a fit for his business.
True.
He discovered the freedom that he needed. And he was effective in having peace of mind, sleeping at night with this one key element that was in the way for him to have a breakthrough.
Yeah.
And a long story short, I'm still working with that client 7 years later.
Wow.
Now it's the challenges are different. We're now negotiating. The challenges now for him are negotiating with the franchise owner for his fourth store.
Amazing.
There's always challenges. There's always a next level for an entrepreneur to get to. And I position myself as your strategic partner. So I'm looking for you to have a breakthrough in the immediate concerns you have. But really in the background, I'm looking to build a long-term relationship with my clients as a strategic partner.
Yeah.
A trusted mentor and advisor.
Got it. Well, thank you for joining us here today. If you are just tuning in, don't forget businesscoachtoronto.ca, and you're working with companies, small businesses, even dentists, we'll talk about that, all over, right? Not just in Toronto. So you are worldwide, shall we say?
Yes. This is the first step forward for me into intentionally marketing into the United States, and I'm really excited about it. And thanks for partnering with us, Jill, and making this happen.
As you should be. This is great because there's so many people out there that may feel frustrated, right, and uncertain, and they don't know how to move along. And I know you make a promise to getting those measurable results. Can I just ask about how business has been affected since the pandemic, how that's changed and transitioned along with your coaching and consulting because of this? Because a lot of people are now working in home, right? Are we running small businesses out of the home as well?
Well, let me see. Most of my clients are not running their small business out of the well. Brent is perhaps. But,
yeah.
Client number one is a farmer, 14,000 acres in Saskatchewan. Another client is providing training for master fire plans and fire prevention and drones and things like that. So he's operating his business out of the home. But a dental practice, interior design company, landscape design company, those companies generally have real estate and offices as well. For me, though, since COVID, I have changed.
Yeah.
And my services are mostly all virtual. I will have face-to-face meetings with the clients occasionally, but COVID has changed my business. If I talk about landscape design company that I'm currently coaching for, COVID changed them. And during COVID, these two partners were incredible. They didn't take any salary. They kept all their employees on payroll. They were really courageous during a difficult period of time. And then after COVID, they engaged me and said, we're not making the money that we need to make to keep the company going on. So, that's what they were looking for. And we discovered by looking at the numbers that their challenge was trying to get increased productivity of the staff. These were two men who were, erred on the side of being nice. What we realized is that they continued with that type of mindset that they weren't going to make it. So when coming out of COVID, we understood what the problem was and what the solution was as well. And the solution was to drive productivity inside the company. And so all these employees that they had a lot of love and respect for, and productivity sometimes in the listening of your clients is a difficult different word that they resisted. So we were effective in understanding what the problem was and getting all the staff to buy into productivity as a strategic imperative for the company to go forward. And we had all the senior people take on a particular project related to productivity to buy into it. So we turned productivity into a bad word into something that served them as employees and served the company. And again, a couple of years later, this particular company is the number one or number two in its space.
Amazing.
In Toronto. But they, after having just purchased a competitor, they're number one or number two in the space, and they're doing well. And we're now working on another set of challenges and constraints for them to go forward in their business.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here, for joining us. And at this time, let's just remind everyone of the contact information, website, phone number, how we could reach you for a consultation.
Well, the best way is just to call me or email me at Bradford at businesscoachtoronto.ca or call me at 416-523-6555.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. All right. Well, let's continue the conversation about your services. I know you're offering so many different resources. You mentioned you have a blog, a resources page, social media sites as well. What else did you want your listeners and viewers to know about you and the company today?
Well, let me tell you another story about a dentist, because you had brought that up earlier.
Yep, I saw that, yeah.
And I go beyond just the medical and dental practices, obviously. But Doctor, let's call him Dr. W. So Dr. W is a teddy bear of a man, really nice, low-key social skills, very caring. And when we first met in a Starbucks restaurant, and he was talking about his issues, he was brought to tears with the kind of constraints and issues that he had. He just lost a key employee. And it was important for me to connect and understand and look for ways to help this client. I worked with him for a number of years, and the key issues for him were around staffing. He had family that were involved in the business, and it wasn't quite working well. Imagine mom being involved in things. He didn't know how to set boundaries for different family members, and it had these negative impacts on his staff. And he lost a couple of key employees, but the turning point for him was this one particular employee. And so we got in there, we rallied the troops, we organized things a little bit better. We had clear rules and boundaries. Mom was still involved, but there were boundaries in there as well that made it more workable. Well, these are the kind of things that this great man, who's a teddy bear at some points, didn't have it within him to consider and put in place. So there's one area where we had to help. But the other thing for him was he had rented and leased a large piece of office, and he wasn't using all of it. And he was concerned about his productivity and his profitability compared to his peers, because all the dentists talk, right? They all compare notes and things like that. So he felt that he was behind the eight ball. Well, what we looked at was he was never going to get there with all this unused space and these operatories. So what we did, we had to expand his business, and we had to bring in a couple of specialists in surgeries and root canals. And so it wasn't work that he was involved with, but he brought employed other dentists in there to work part-time, and was able to make the revenue that he needed to compete. So his revenues went up 25% or each year for a couple of years. His profitability numbers went up.
Wow, yeah.
So it's understanding the numbers and then creating the mindset needed to deliver on that. And in this case, it was an organizational change too, because as the business expanded, he couldn't do everything. So we get a manager to coordinate and schedule some of these things that, as a busy dentist, he wasn't able to do. So it was staffing, organizing, creating boundaries, and then creating a strategy in place for him to make the kind of money and profit that he needed. And he's got a beautiful office. And he was very proud of that, and he didn't want to give that up. And he's currently looking at renewing that space as well.
Beautiful. See, I love hearing these testimonials for sure. It's like, wow, it really works. And, if someone's out there who's interested in your services, what is the commitment process like? I mean, is there a certain amount of time that you work with the business for? Is it usually 3 months, 6 months, a year? How does that part work? And how do you figure out that? Or is it, it's independent to each person, I'm assuming?
Yes, you're right. That's a correct assumption. It's independent to each client. But generally speaking, we're looking at a 6-month engagement. Occasionally, it'll be 3 months in very rare circumstances. But what there is in the onboarding process is to understand your business and understand your immediate concerns, and then talk about the different approaches that could be on the table for addressing those. And then it's always a function of budget. You want to make sure that the coaching services don't handicap the business to be able to, operate, meet payroll, pay their obligations. So it's the solution would generally be customized to the specific issues and concerns, and of course the time and the budget required. So what that would look like is we come to an agreement of what that roadmap would be, and then we engage in that. And then I would say 60-70% of the clients will renew, because there's always another issue and another issue and another issue that pop up. And those that don't renew, like Jeff, for example, comes back every year or every 2 years kind of thing. So I have recurring clients who will cycle back into the fold on a regular basis as well. And other clients, they got what they need, they're happy, and they don't have any immediate needs to continue in the relationship. And that's okay. Sydney, I keep in touch with her on a regular basis, and she was a client who, I worked for 6 months, and we still keep in touch.
I love it. Building relationships and keeping them together. And just want to point out here again, businesscoachingtoronto.ca. There's executive coaching, coaching for dentists, coaching for business, so many things. And on their blog as well, they also have plenty of resources. And, our business coach is worth it. That's something that people want to know.
Well, that's my promise. You come to us with a particular defined business problem, and my promise is that we will produce results. And if you don't produce results, you'll know exactly why. It's because you just decided that I'm not willing to make that change. The fear of shifting the culture of the organization. The fear of having difficult conversations with your employees or your franchise owner or whatever it is. Sometimes people are stuck to their habits. I've never met a client, for example, who didn't have some kind of issue around money.
Wow.
Sometimes they spend too much and sometimes they don't spend enough. And so, it's finding that sweet spot, that balance is, and some of those habits are hard to change, for people. So coaching is really designed for those people who are committed to learning, growing, and developing their skills.
Yep.
So that it serves their clients, their people, and ultimately themselves.
Beautiful. Well, we are out of time today and excited that we got to know you, to talk more about this work. Let's remind everyone how we can reach out for a consultation, and I hope we have another show coming up, Mike.
Mike Bradford, 416-523-6555, and my email is mbradford@businesscoachtoronto.ca. Jill, it's been an absolute pleasure to work with you. I love your energy here and your great questions.
Well, you're amazing, and congratulations on all you're doing. Best of luck with the family in town coming soon, and hopefully we'll chat soon. Okay, Mike? Thanks again.
Bye, Jill.
Bye-bye.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Of course my kid's in the right car seat. Well, I think he is.
Yeah, my kid's in a booster seat. He was ready to move up. He is ready, right?
Her car seat looks like the right size.
There are probably rules on when to move up to a booster seat, aren't there?
Rear facing, forward facing. I think I have it right.
Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Are your children in the right car seat for their age and size? Don't think you know. Know you know. Go to safercar.gov/the right seat.
I know my child's in the right car seat, or else I wouldn't get in the driver's seat.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.